Hello, and welcome to the Behavior Education Connection, the podcast that works to connect the world of behavior analysis and the world of education. We focus on topics important to behavior analysts who work in the public schools and those who support them. Join us and spend time gaining insights and ideas as our host talks with fellow behavior analysts as well as other experts in the field.
Hello, and welcome back to the Behavior Education Connection. I am your host, Dr. Selena Layden. I am so excited to be joined today by Crystal Foster. How are you, Crystal?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I am great, and I am so glad to have you with me today. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
As you said, my name is Crystal Foster. I am a board certified behavior analyst who works in the state of Virginia, but I live in Maryland. What else do people usually say when they introduce themselves?
Well, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Oh, right. Jump into that. So I was previously an applied behavior analysis coach for Fairfax County Public Schools, and I did that for many, many years. Loved my job. But recently, I just moved into the role of early childhood mental health specialist within Fairfax County. So working with different populations and working with a different program now.
Well, tell us a little bit about what that program looks like.
So the pre-K program is formally what you would call the Head Start program. So it's a general education program. It's all preschool age students, which was a pleasant change, I must say. And like I said, it's considered a general education program, and we're working with those preschoolers who are coming in those crucial years before they hit kindergarten.
That's wonderful. And as our listeners may have guessed, we are talking about ABA and pre-K today. So
We are.
I know, and I'm really excited. I think, so many times autism is the focus of behavior analysis, whether it's in schools or out of schools. And I know that within your previous role, you did work with a lot of children with autism. So
Mhm.
how has that transition been into pre-K with kids of all different kinds of abilities?
It was a very interesting switch, and you kind of have to hit the ground running. It's one of those changes where you go into it knowing that you don't really know what you're about to get into, so you have to keep a very open mind. Because, like you said, almost all of my experience exclusively has been with the autism population and students with autism, developmental delays, intellectual disabilities. General education students has never really been my focus. So that alone was very interesting coming into it, just seeing the differences in abilities and skills between the children in both programs. But also, like, there is a big focus on social emotional learning within my program. And some of that comes from the state and federal guidelines around Head Start programs.
Sure.
So that was also a learning curve because I will say, at least in my application of ABA over the years, social emotional was not a huge focus. It's something we touched on, but it was never like a primary focus. So that was a big learning curve for me. And a big part of that transition was you really have to open your mind and switch philosophies a little bit.
Yeah, and I imagine that it was very different as far as working with some of the teachers and the staff as well. So what has that been like?
That's been interesting. Like you said, that the program is different, the staff is different. So when you're working within a self-contained autism program, staff kind of come into that role knowing that they're going to have a coach and this is what they're going to do, and they're going to be there to support you. And they do come in with a lot of training in ABA and different ABA strategies and programming. So that is part of the required trainings for staff within those classrooms. On the pre-K side, there's not as much training when it comes to behavior and ABA. Like there really is no training when it comes to ABA. So that was a bit of a learning curve was, okay, so what do these staff actually know about behavior and ABA? And then how can I weave some of that into what's already happening in the classroom because these are very busy classrooms where and even the ratios are different. It's one teacher and one assistant, where in the self-contained classrooms you're more likely to have one teacher and two assistants. or two support staff. So and there's also more kids. There can be up to 18 kids in these classrooms. So when you're thinking about the capacity of the staff to even implement some of the things that you may want to ask of them, you have to really think, is this feasible for them? Is this something they'll actually be able to do with the workload that they have?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I want to go back to something that you were talking about too. I think my experience has been, early childhood teachers and providers get really great training, but it's very
Hmm.
different from the training that a lot of our behavior analysts get, or a
Absolutely.
lot of our autism teachers get, because the focus is just different.
Hmm.
So how has there been like good acceptance? Do they want to engage in behavior analysis practices, or are they like, nope, that's not for me?
I will say I've had staff who are very open to what I've had to say and suggestions that I've had, recommendations that I've made, but I don't come in with like my ABA guns blazing. It's more like, so here are some strategies we can try. Let's see how this works. And it's a very collaborative team, so it's not just me. We also have resource teachers that are supporting these classrooms as well, so it's a collaborative approach between me and the other resources to the teachers. So we're implementing ABA strategies. It's just not always provided to them as this is ABA is what you're doing. So we may use a token board with a student. We may use prompting. We may use shaping. We may use fading, but it's not presented to them as these are ABA strategies that you're using. But essentially, that's what they are.
Yeah, and I think it's that acceptability, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the teacher is the person leading that classroom. You're not
Hmm.
going to be in the classroom all day long, every day. And so,
Exactly.
how can we ensure that, whatever we're recommending or whatever is going to actually be implemented when we're not there? And I think you hit on a really good point of it doesn't really matter what we call it sometimes.
Hmm.
We want to see good practices.
Exactly. And I find that modeling has been a really helpful strategy. That's something that as an ABA coach, we did a lot of coaching. We did a lot of modeling for our staff of strategies and interventions. And that background has been really helpful in this role because it's one thing to just walk in and say, here, use this token board and then leave. But if they don't know how to use it properly, the intervention is probably not going to work. So being able to model for them what strategies should look like has been very helpful with getting buy-in from staff.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, it's that whole can't do, won't do problem, right? Like
Hmm.
my experience at least has been most teachers want to, but they don't always either have the skills to do it. So,
Hmm.
they need training, or to your point earlier, they don't know how to fit it within the existing structure. They have a
Exactly.
structure in their classroom and they're not sure, well, if he needs a token board or she needs this prompting procedure, like how does that fit in to what I'm already doing?
That is very true. On the flip side of that, if you have a student who is tearing up your classroom day in and day out, there may be some more motivation to try and fit in some of those strategies. Even if you can't do it all day long, let's just try it a couple of times. And oftentimes we do start seeing success, and then you get a lot more buy-in when that happens.
Well, reinforcement's powerful for everybody, right?
It is. And that has been like my biggest, like, if there's one thing that I have been spouting with all of the teachers I've been working with since my transition is reinforcement, reinforcement, reinforcement. You want to change this behavior, you have to reinforce it.
Yeah, and you're working with small children. I mean, that
Exactly.
they need a lot of reinforcement generally, and even sometimes it's just smiles and high fives and great jobs, but they have a much shorter learning history at that point.
They do, because most of them are 4 going on 5, so they're that year right before they're going into kindergarten. So they have a couple years under their belt at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned reinforcement, of course, and we mentioned a couple other things, but what are some strategies that you have seen that have worked um, coming from a more self-contained program into this kind of more general education setting?
Obviously, reinforcement, that's always going to work. What the reinforcement looks like, that
Hmm.
has shifted a little bit. We're moving from very external reinforcers, tokens, tangibles, to more naturalistic reinforcement, more praise, more social opportunities within the classroom. We still do use tangibles, but not as frequently as in the other programs. What else has been working? Shaping has been working. It's been a strategy that we have been able to successfully use. With the students in particular, I would say behavior contracts. I haven't had a chance to use a lot of those over the last several years, but with this population, I feel like it's much more appropriate to use, or like check-in systems are really good for them. Also, that helps with their self-awareness. On the staff side, like I said earlier, that coaching and modeling has been really, really helpful to get to see change with staff and building their skills.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned behavioral contracts because I will tell you that I get pushback sometimes that, oh, preschoolers are too young to do behavioral contracts,
Are
which
they? They still understand things.
they absolutely do. And it may not be as complex as some of the other ones that we use with maybe our
Hmm.
secondary students, but I have definitely gotten pushback. Oh, preschoolers are too young. They can't understand that. But it sounds like you've had, and I've definitely had success with it. Seeing is believing for sure, but it sounds like you've had some good success, at least preliminarily with that.
I've had a couple successes. I'm not gonna say some, but a couple of good instances of it. But like you said, you have to match the contract to the student. So it's not going to be a very complicated setup. It's not going to be a very complicated contract, but it's something that they can agree to, and we outline the terms of what they have to do, what they're going to earn, and I have seen it be successful a couple times.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of what we do, even if it's not formal behavioral contracting, it is the concept of it, right? Like if you clean your room, then we can go to the park. If you know,
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And so it makes sense to me that it works with preschoolers. But again, I have definitely gotten that feedback more than once.
I will also add in token boards. Token boards are such an important way to teach contingency and just like a nice visual also for the staff and the students for reinforcement. And I have gotten a little bit of pushback on using token boards since this transition. I would say in the self-contained world, we use token boards all the time.
Right.
And moving over to this position, I was told be careful on recommending token boards. This program really likes natural reinforcement, social praise. And I'm like, but that doesn't work for everybody. So I was very hesitant to recommend that in some situations where I really knew that's what would be beneficial. And so in one particular instance, I sat back, I didn't say token board, and the school psychologist actually recommended it. And it was so successful. So I feel like there are times where I want to recommend things, but I don't want everybody to be like, oh, well, that's just that ABA stuff. Um,
Right.
it is that ABA stuff, but it's also very successful strategies that can work across settings and across students.
Well, and that's what makes ABA so powerful, right?
Hmm.
It can be individualized to meet the needs of everyone, and it just is successful. So
Absolutely.
my next question for you is, as you have moved into the pre-K world,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you've reflected on the similarities, the differences, all the things, but so two-part question. One, what have you learned as you've made this transition? And then second part, what advice would you give someone who might be considering making a shift in their practice within the schools?
What have I learned? I've learned a good amount. One of the first things that I've learned was how restricted my view was of things. Like when you're working with self-contained students who have significant deficits for what, 20 years now, you lose sight of what is out there. You forget where chronological age and developmental age are supposed to align. And so when I walk into these classrooms, and one of my first experiences, and I still laugh about it, I walked into a classroom first time seeing these students and this teacher, and one of the students looked at me and he said, "Who are you? What's your name? Are you a stranger?" And just to be greeted that way, I was like, oh my God, this is so different. Because walking into most self-contained classrooms, our students are lacking those. A lot of times they're lacking those vocal skills, but they're also lacking the observation skills to even notice that I'm there. So it was very interesting and fun to be observed and noticed. And so that was a big shift, getting used to the just the socialization of the students, also getting used to moving from a very adult directed adult focused, IEP driven setting to a very child focused and naturalistic setting. That was a big shift where
Mhm.
my inner control freak was like, why is this not structured? Why are we doing things the way that we're doing? And they have a method to their madness. There's a certain way that things are supposed to run. There's a certain schedule. It's a very natural, play-based, child-led environment, and that took me a couple months to get used to. But I'm really really liking it, and I know that eventually for our students in the self-contained setting, that is our eventual goal. We want them to learn through play. We want them to be independent. But where we're starting is very different in
Right.
pre-K versus self-contained autism classrooms. So that was a big shift. Another shift was, like I said earlier, that big focus on social emotional learning and the different curriculum around social emotional learning. So I had to learn and get familiar with some of those programs that I had never heard of, but are so nice to see them being implemented with students so that they're learning about their emotions and they're learning about their feelings and they're learning coping strategies proactively so that we don't get those high levels of interfering behaviors because they don't know how to self-regulate. So that was really nice to see that they are incorporating this just as part of their everyday tier one instruction.
That's
And
awesome.
second part of the question,
Yeah,
what
no
was the
worries.
second part of the question again?
So, what advice would you give to someone, not necessarily just who wants to work in pre-K, although that can be part of your answer,
hmm
but who is looking to maybe shift their role within the public school?
I would say keep an open mind because things may look different from one program to another. Keep an open mind, be willing to put yourself out there and take a risk. I was in my previous position for about 13 years, so this was a big jump. I was with a team that I loved. Some of my best friends are on that team, and leaving that team was scary. But if I wasn't willing to take that risk, I would not have learned what I've already learned so far this year. So just be open to changes, being open to learning because it's a learning curve. I'm learning all about things that I didn't know before, so I don't want to go in with my ABA hat where nobody understands behavior. I'm here to teach all of you. Obviously, there are things that they can learn from me, but there's a lot that I've been learning from them as well.
So, have you found, and I'm going to use this word kind of loosely, but like, have you sought out mentors or peer mentors or others that you can rely on to say, I don't know what this is, or teach me about this, or let me bounce some ideas
Absolutely.
off of you?
Absolutely. So one of the good things about coming into this role, there were two of us that got hired at the same time. So it's nice to have that little cohort. We're in the same boat. We'll talk to each other. We may commiserate with each other. Like, I don't have a clue what's going on. Are we doing our job correctly? But we were also assigned a mentor within our team. So it's a team of six of us. So we each have a mentor. So anytime I'm like, hey, I don't understand what this is. Where do I find this? What does this program even mean? I go to my mentor, and she has been on the team for I think 4 or 5 years, and she's like a fountain of knowledge. And it's no judgment, and she's very open to helping me learn the things that I may not have understood.
That's awesome. And that's my always my advice when people take on new roles and is to find someone who you can talk to and bounce ideas off of and get advice from and more than one person when you can, because at the end of the day, no one can do everything. So
Exactly.
having multiple people that you can say, I need help, or I don't understand, or whatever the case may be.
It's been really nice because if you're not willing to say that you don't understand something, how are you going to learn? And you have to have that open mind to learn the things, new strategies, new thoughts, new approaches. So that's
Absolutely.
been really
And,
good.
as BCBAs, it's part of our ethical code to seek out others in order to help us grow our own scope of competence, right?
Mhm.
So I think that that's great that that's already kind of built into your system, but that you also have had the opportunity to find more informal supports as well.
Absolutely. It's been really good to have that support from them.
That's awesome. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of our conversation, but is there anything else that you want to add?
I did want to add something about how people view ABA
Okay.
and moving from the autism world to the pre-K world. The view of ABA and behavior in general is different. And so that was a little bit of education on my part, which I've had the pleasure of doing because I love talking about ABA. If there's one thing that I've loved doing over the last 10 years or so is educating people on what ABA is and what it is not, and what behavior is and what behavior is not. So I find that because I'm the only person in my building that has an ABA background.
Mhm.
So when people are like, oh, well, what is ABA? And teaching them that ABA is not just for autism, it's applicable to everything. It's a set of strategies and principles that can be applied in lots of different scenarios. So it may look this way with a child with autism, but it's going to look very different in a pre-K classroom, but the strategies are still the same and we can apply them. And that behavior is not just a child eloping or a child having a tantrum. Behavior is anything that is observable and measurable. So that's been very fun to highlight as well. So I find that the view of ABA has it's a lot more narrow in the pre-K world versus the self-contained world. So that's been a little bit of a shift for me.
But working to expand that view, right?
Absolutely. I'm a behavior analyst at the end of the day. My job is to, well, part of my job is to teach people what ABA is and how to use it with their students and within the program.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a really great conversation. I know the school
Thank
year
you.
is kind of at the beginning, so I wish you a good start to your year. And with all those little lovely, wonderful little preschoolers, I hope they have a great year too.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm also looking forward to a great school year.
All right. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Behavior Education Connection. Join us next time for another great conversation about behavior analysis in the schools. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. Sending out a special thanks to the Virginia Department of Education for supporting our work. We look forward to connecting with you all again soon.